Hey, everybody, glad to be with you again. And today's topic is optimizing your coaching process. David, you like to optimize things, don't you?
I kind of do.
You like to
I
tweak and adjust and
I do.
fine tune.
I like things that just happen and get done and in the most effective and efficient way possible without having
Mhm.
to sit here and do it all manually. That drives me nuts.
Well,
Whenever I see somebody doing things manually, I just cringe.
yeah, so there's the automation side, but the other side of it for me has been more about um, it is still manual, but for me, it was still fixing things that I was sending the same kind of emails all the time or the same kind of proposals or whatever it might be. So having templates, having things that you really don't have to work extensively on, has been part of my optimizing is, even doing like creating like Google Forms for clients to fill out between sessions or before an engagement where, I can just send the link to people and I don't have to, send an email and ask those questions and make it very manual and tedious to collect answers. So it's been once again, I think that this whole topic we're going to talk about today, it's a fine tuning process. It's something that you learn over time that you really, you figure out what works, right? And if you figure out what works manually, then you can figure out how to automate that manual process so it's no longer manual.
That's important. I mean, if you're gonna, this is a key, and a lot of people will start and they'll hit a ceiling. They'll get started and they'll have some success. They'll get some people that they can work with, so things that they can go on. But the problem becomes very quickly is that your system has a hard ceiling to it. You can only do so
Right.
many hours of coaching a day. You can only work so many hours for a client,
Yeah.
and then you're done and your income is stopped right there because you can't go any higher than that. And so that's where things become a real problem, is that you realize that the only way to, hey, we see this too much, is that the only way you can make more money is to work longer and harder hours, longer
Right.
and longer hours, and you don't get any sleep, and then you're stressed and you're you know exhausted by the time it's done. And that's where this optimization process really becomes important.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other side of it for me, it's like I read an interesting book a little while ago called Built to Sell, and it was basically a story, kind of a parable, kind of a book teaching lessons. And the whole idea was this company, I think they were like a design firm, was kind of the fictional story. But this guy customized to every client. He did all these things, and the whole premise was developing a repeatable system, to your point, that you could do over and over again with clients that you walk through, where not only could you do it, but now he was able to grow his team to be able to do it. And so, folks, what we want to dig into today are just some ways to really help you get out of that over working, that highly manual way that's going to bog you down so that you can ultimately have more of an impact, because that's the thing. Coaching is an incredible profession. I mean, David, you and I love to coach people. We love to help people. And yet there are aspects of it that can be tedious, that can be tiresome if we're not careful. And we need to really think about what are we really doing. And so the first thing that we really need to look at is developing a framework. And this is something I didn't understand early on, especially. I certainly understand it so much better now. But I don't know. Why don't you talk to us about developing a framework of a coaching program or a coaching system that is something that is repeatable
Right.
for client from client to client.
Well, I mean, there's multiple layers to this. Number one, like, for your own marketing and building of your business, like, what do you help your clients solve?
Mhm.
What is the solution that you get to? And if it's like, well, I can do this or this or this or this, then how do your clients, and if how does someone know to say yes to you? Like,
Mhm.
if you don't have a clear outcome. So if you have a clear outcome of, like, I help clients solve this.
Yeah.
Like, if you're having issues in your company, if you're having issues individually with these areas, this is what I solve. This
Mhm.
is what I can help with. And now clients have a very clear understanding of why they should say yes to you, first and foremost. And then once you have that end goal in mind, now you can say, well, okay, this is, and now you have to think through, this is the process I take people through.
Yeah.
It's not just like, hey, show up, hey, what do you want to talk about today? Like,
Right.
And that does happen from time to time and does start to go down that path. But you have to understand, like, okay, if this is where you are, then this is the next step.
Mhm.
Like, if then we have from there, we got to go to the next step and the next step. And you need to have that framework in place so that you know that, like, okay, here's where we are in the journey, and I know where to take people. And you can develop materials, you can develop all your course that work or whatever that goes with your coaching and be able to take people and lead them through it. But you have to have that framework
Mhm.
so that people know this is where I am on the path.
Mhm.
This is where I am. So I got to look at the map and I got to, okay, I now have to follow this because this is where I want to get to. And when you have that, it helps you
Yeah.
systematize your coaching. It helps you systematize how you're able to help people. Everything starts to make more sense and you know where to go.
Yeah.
Like, okay, this is where we're at. The next step is
Mhm.
this. Okay?
Yeah.
And it's not this guessing your way through anything. So it just makes everything much more repeatable.
Yeah.
And again, if you ever want to grow and scale your business, it's not like, you think about going to the grocery store. They're not going out and saying, well, we have to figure out how to make bread again because that's a thing that apparently people want. And no, they have a systematized process of how the bread gets made to how it gets put on the shelf.
Yeah.
It's the same thing again and again and again. And you have to have something similar for your coaching service.
Yeah, and I will say too, because my initial coaching training was very, I'll say, very open-ended. There was still a system and still a framework to work through, but I had to keep boiling it down to kind of make it my own. And so even over here, I'm off to the side of my desk, I have just really like a three-step process. Like if I'm coaching leaders in an organization, for instance, I might not be coaching every leader through the same course or the same content at a time, depending on the engagement. Sometimes they just need help in real time situations, challenges, opportunities, and that's fine. But I still had to learn that I still need to have a consistent framework to guide the sessions through so that they made sense and they were repeatable. And so for me, I thought about, okay, well, let's clarify, what are the goals? What's the problem? What's the
Right.
objective? Then I talked about, okay, let's prioritize action steps that you need to take to work through this. So we work through that. And then the third step was just act, that became about the execution and about the accountability. And so even if it isn't just let's work through these 5 or 10 steps to get this specific outcome that's repeatable every time, uh, for a common outcome, I'll say, I still develop my own framework to help me with guiding my clients so that they're thinking, okay, how do I clarify? How do I prioritize? How do I take action? So that then that's in their mind, that's in my mind, it's how we operate in our sessions. So, but that became a framework. But David, that came 7 years after I started, probably, and once again, this is a refining process. And I think if we're really paying attention and to what are we, what's lagging, what's bogging things down, what's not smooth and clear. And I think the other thing about a framework is, to your point, you mentioned at the very beginning from a marketing side of things, when you can clearly, advertise and show people, here's what I help you with, here's how I help you, here's a clear framework and process that we go through. That gives people confidence that you know what you're doing
Right.
versus, hey, let's just have some calls and I'll help you with some stuff.
Right.
That's not a very compelling
Right. Well, exactly. I mean, that helps you land more clients, and you could say, "Yep,
Mhm.
I know exactly." It's like hiring a plumber to come over and look at a problem you're having, like with your dishwasher. Like, well, I'll just start tearing some stuff out, and we'll start digging into it and see if we can find something that's broken. Like,
Yeah.
no, I don't want that. I want you to be able to diagnose it and know exactly what to do and where to go. And that's the same with your coaching process. Is you need to be able to look at them and say, yeah, okay, I know exactly what to do. I have a framework.
Yep.
This is step 1, 2, and 3, and we're just going to walk straight through it. And you're right in that your roadmap or your framework that you're leading people through has different layers to it. And I
Mhm.
think that's kind of what you were saying, Chris,
Yeah.
is that you have like the high level layer of like, this is what it is. But then depending on more what the situation is, we have more specific steps to
Correct.
deal with those specific problems
Yeah.
and issues that we need to work through. But there is either way, you're just going from one framework to another.
Yeah.
and a high level framework to a more specific framework. But again, it gives confidence to the client.
Yeah.
It makes your process much more simple and clear. You know what to do.
Mhm.
And again, if you need to build a team of people to help you coach and to do other things, they now have a process to follow.
Right.
This is not some mystery like, well, what am I supposed to tell them? What are we supposed to do? No, I have a process.
I literally had somebody yesterday reach out to me, and I'm having a phone call with her this afternoon, and she said, "Hey, I'm at my job. I had talked to my boss. I've got some options and some decisions I need to make about my career path. Could we get on a call?" And I said, sure. And so we're going to talk, later today. But I was thinking about this morning as I woke up was, what that's going to look like. And I thought, well, I know what it's going to look like because I have this framework, right? I'm going to clarify some things with her. I'm going to help her prioritize. I'm going to help her act like those. That's my 3-step process when I boil everything down, that's what I do. The other thing I was thinking too, David, with this is how, even when I shared this probably many, many episodes now, but, we walked into a mattress store a couple years ago and walked in, and what they had they had a sign up on those stands, and it said, here's the 3 steps we're going to take to help you find your ideal mattress. That stood out to me. I still tell that story because it stood out to me that company had done the work of putting together their own framework, their own process. That's to sell mattresses. That's not building businesses. That's not leadership. That's not all these other topics that could be, but it was very valuable. I'm like, well, at least, I mean, they literally walked us over to the sign and said, here's what we're going to do right now to help you.
Right.
And you know what that did? That my confidence, my impression of them right out of the gate, just went to the moon because I'm like, these guys know what they're doing. Their employees are trained to walk through this process. So anybody that works there, they know what they need to be doing with their next customer that walks in the door. So, folks,
Well,
this
but
is not just a coaching thing, but that's a huge thing.
I think you also said something important there is like to help you find your perfect mattress.
Right.
This isn't we can just sell you something.
Right.
This is to help you as the customer find the one that's right for you.
Yeah.
And so it's also very customer focused in that
Mhm.
you are leading people to the best decision for them.
Yeah.
And you have a process like, okay, we're going to go through these 3 steps. And by the time we're done, you're going to know no on that one, no on that one, yes on this one.
Yeah.
And that's going to answer a lot of, and you're going to have something gives the customer confidence. You're going to have something you're happy with. And again, with your coaching, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, exactly what you're going to lead them through to get them what they need and what they want at the end of the process.
Well, and you and I have even experienced this, recently. Like when we started our coaching program, we looked at it and said, okay, there's really 3 core stages: design, launch, and grow your business. So you have to design it well, so you can launch it well, so you can ultimately grow and scale. And then as we kept going, we realized, well, but for coaches, course creators, trainers, there are even more specific steps within that overarching framework. And so then we built out what we now call success roadmaps for each of those lanes. And I know for both of us, it did wonders just for us mentally as we're thinking through where do we take somebody from A to B to C and on, and as a client, because we now have these clear steps. And so whether whatever kind of coaching or training or, course business you want to build, there are still common steps you need to take. And we, boiled this down so that we can help you. And that was great. That was great for, our clients, but it's also truly helpful for us as coaches to stay on track and to really help people see where are you in your journey, because I think that's a part of it, David. We get people who come in and it's like you could have an idea and you really need to work on that idea to design something. But many of the people that we work with, they've already had their idea. They just need to figure out, okay, what do I do with that idea? What do I do with this course, this coaching program next? But now, because we have those roadmaps, we can kind of plot them on the map and say, okay, you're here. You don't need to go back and do all these other 5 things, but let's start here and then move forward.
Well, and again, and as you do that, I think this leads us to the next point, which is record or create resources for the things that you're doing consistently.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not only going to make life easier for you as a coach, but it's going to make life better for your clients as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because think about it. Like if I can say, hey, I can tell you, and we can walk through manually the 5 questions that you need to answer, or I could say, here, download this document.
Yeah.
It's got 5 questions, work through it, and then next time we talk, come back to me with
Yeah.
what you got. And you don't have to keep repeating it. You don't have to go through it again and again. You can just say, here's what I want you to do. Or you could have a short video that explains it and walks through the process. Watch this short video, complete these questions. And you're taking and now saving time.
Right.
Because, and they're appreciative, because I don't know like how you are, Chris, but I love going through courses, because what I can do is, like, if I'm with somebody live, sometimes they say something and I'm like trying to write it down, because I'm like, shoot, wait, hold on. I'm still writing the last thought down.
Yep.
And when I'm on a course or I'm watching a video, I can hit pause.
Right.
Like, I'm writing it all down, getting all my thoughts clear on that. Okay, hit play again. And now I can go on and keep going. And then that's how I do a lot of my learning through all that, is I go through and I can just do that kind of stuff. And that is invaluable when you pair that with coaching.
Right.
So you have resources in there that people can learn the steps. They can go through and do all these things, and they can go through, wow, okay, I've learned all this, and now come back to the coaching call and I'll help you apply it.
Right.
And so a lot of the training can occur in ways that are not teaching, because what you quickly realize is you're teaching the same ideas over and over again from one client to the next. Well, why don't you create a resource for that?
Yeah.
Create a short video, create a workbook, create some pages that they can complete that outline all that, so they can just go through it and like, oh, okay, great. Well, now you have more valuable time when you talk to them.
Right.
Because now it's about application. They've already got what they need. They've learned the principles and the ideas and the concepts. That's all now there. And you didn't have to say it, 25 times.
Or I should say, if something comes up in a coaching call, you can point people to a training that they can dig into later. So you're saving time in that moment with, in the present with them too. And that's been huge. I know, David, I work with a group of managers where, I have 1 hour call with this group once a month, but I give them a recorded lesson every month. And then I also do expert interviews as part of the program. Those are recordings that I send out to them. And literally, when I started working with this group, I kind of felt guilty because of how easy it felt, because the recordings made it so easy. I didn't have to go on and teach live through every lesson that I'm giving them. I had recorded it once already as a course, and then I'm just dripping it with them once a month and saying, okay, this month is the topic is this. Watch this video, watch this interview, then we'll get on a call, and it's great. I mean, it really is, because it simplifies it for me. It's we're just in an on-demand world right now, right? When you look at Hulu and Netflix and Paramount Plus and all the different, we watch television on demand now versus, when we were kids, I remember looking at the TV guide and, okay, at 8:00 on Tuesday night, I got to be in front of the TV, and if I missed it, who knows when the rerun was going to happen. Right. But with recording your content, you allow it to be on demand. That crosses time zones, that crosses a lot of barriers that, and reduces a lot of that friction for clients. And then when you have, like you said, you have a coaching call, or you have a workshop where they can come and take that information and then get your live help, it's just massively valuable. And so, it's a hybrid, I'll say, when you do this, of a course, being a course creator and a coaching program. But I think this is where those two things can truly come together and be extremely valuable, where a course creator can expand their business to add coaching, a coach can expand their business to add a course level. And now you've got different approaches. The other side about it is, if you're a coach, for instance, and you record content, now you actually have a downsell opportunity too. So if somebody says, I really can't afford your coaching program, you're saying, well, my course is this price, and that could be, a fraction of the cost of the coaching package.
Well, because you don't have to be there live. You can it's a self-study program. I don't have to do any calls. I don't have to engage you. It's just, rather than spend a few thousand on coaching, you could spend a few hundred on the course, and there you go.
Right.
And you're selling access to their already finished and completed content. This allows you as a coach to generate a lot more income.
Yep.
and to become, much more profitable, because you can sell course access as many times as you want,
Right.
and it doesn't take you any more hours. I mean,
Right.
there's no more hours on coaching calls or answering questions that you have to spend. You're just letting people go through it on their own, and they're just paying you for access to the content.
Yeah, which makes me laugh. It just came up. You had mentioned to me a while back. It hit you one time. Like, I'm really just selling logins,
Yes, I'm a password salesman.
password.
Yeah, I'm a password salesman. I'm just gonna sell. I got passwords. I got lots of passwords. Come on over and get your passwords. Yeah, that's kind of the what you realize one day is this is kind of what you're doing, is that
But
you are offering people the opportunity to watch training, and the thing that stands with them in the training are the login and the password,
yeah.
and you're selling access. So
Well, and what's great about it is, right, you are then also scaling your impact to help people, right? So if somebody says, and I know people, people, we've probably all been there at some level where maybe that first step of really buying that higher dollar coaching program is like a really big decision, right? You don't, it's hard for you to take that first step. So, but a course could be that
right,
middle ground for people. So, okay, well, I'll start here,
right,
and then once they get value there, then they might say, okay, now I really do want to work with the coach
right.
because I did get a lot of value out of this little course. I've shared that story before too, where, I think I bought a $27 mini course from somebody years ago, thought it was extremely valuable, and ended up buying a $1,500 coaching program to be a part of a community for like 12 weeks. That $27, taster basically through those few lessons led to a $1,500 coaching sale for that coach. That's the kind of thing that's possible when you record content and you put it out there and put it as options for people. So think about this. Once you have your clear framework, what are the things you can record so that you're not having to say it over and over and over again on a live call, or trying to deal with scheduling, challenges and all those things. The other thing too that we want to just talk about today is really offering coaching groups, not just one-on-one engagements. And this is, to your point, Dave, there's only so much time in a day. There's a capacity that we run into, that we realize pretty quickly that we can only do so much. And it's not just about time. It's also about energy and being fully present, because the more you do one-on-one, it's draining, right? It can be very good. It's a good draining, but when you get tired, you're not on top of your A game.
Well, it does, and I've had times where I've gotten off coaching calls and I was excited and pumped and ready to go because it was great, and I've had other times where I was like, "Okay, I need a break."
Hmm.
And the reality is that it depends on what you're dealing with the client.
Yeah.
It depends on the subject matter and how emotionally invested you are in the situation. But it does. And you do have, no matter, even if the calls are going well,
Yeah.
um, at the end, because like there are days like Wednesday for whatever reason, and this is partially on you, Chris, is that I tend to have an awful lot of calls strung back to back. I blame you,
It's all my
but
fault.
it is your fault. But I can go for like 6 hours straight, more or less, on calls. And
You're not energized by that like some
well,
people.
but at the end, you're like, okay, I got to go do something else.
Right.
And so there's a limit. Like I don't know that, I mean, anybody gets energized by 6 straight hours, but it,
Well, it's just the extrovert introvert thing is all I'm saying,
it
is
is.
that some
It
people
is.
some people get, like, for me, I can be energized during a series of calls, and then
Right.
I crash later. For
Right.
for people that are more introverted and how they recharge, that is very taxing. And so it just depends on how we're wired.
It does. But again, at the point is that you can't do 12 hours a day of calls.
Yeah.
I don't. I have never met a person that would legit do 12 hours a day of one-on-one type
Right.
calls, right? Because it's just too much for one person to
Right.
do every day. And so when you're doing that, especially when you're doing one-on-one, you realize quite quickly, hey, I can't do more than this. I mean, I
Yeah.
can only do like 3 to 4 calls a day,
Yeah.
and I need to go do something else,
Yeah.
and it's too much. And so there is, yeah, there's just a limit to it. So when you go and you do group coaching, or you find other ways to do hybrid type coaching, you offer your ability to, because again, when you're doing one-on-one, then that's your cap.
Right.
If you could do 4 calls, 3 to 4 a day, then that's your ceiling. That's all you can take on as clients. You can't have any more clients after that. So, and you can only raise your price so far before people finally start saying, I can't afford to do this anymore.
Right.
It's too much. So the other side is like, yeah, you have to, be able to go and do like group models where multiple people can hop on a call at once. And if they need something that week, great. If they don't, then they don't hop on. And
Yeah.
but they still have all the resources. They have all these other things they can utilize. You're there for them if they need help with something.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, then you are able to scale to a much higher level without having to, put in more hours.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll be real honest, folks. I was against group coaching when I first started my coaching business. I thought that the true impact was only going to come through one-on-one coaching. I was very narrow-minded about this. And yet what was funny is I was being trained to be a coach in a group coaching program. And I was finding value in the group coaching program and yet being resistant to the idea. Like, and it finally hit me one day. I'm like, wait a second. I'm having this mindset that I have to coach clients one-on-one for the greatest impact, but yet I learned so much from my peers in this other group coaching program. Why would I think that that couldn't happen over here? And so not just the time saving, which is certainly massive when you do group coaching programs and you block the same time, each week or however often you coach and you have multiple people showing up at that time. That's huge for building a lifestyle friendly business that you'll enjoy. But the other side of it is don't think that you have to be the only voice and guru in the room. As a coach, I find myself being a facilitator many times and even asking other people, hey, you've gone through such and such of a situation, what do you think about that? Or what are your insights from this lesson we looked at this month or whatever? And people are sharing things that I would have never brought out because it just didn't hit me that way. So there's just value when you bring people together, and your value as a coach then isn't just to be the be all end all know all. You become somebody who is facilitating learning. You're helping people grow. Yeah, your experience, your expertise is leading the way, but you're also not the only way. There's so many different ways to approach things in life and business. So think about that. Where is there a time for one-on-one? Absolutely. I had a discovery call with a leader recently, and he's like, I think I need executive coaching. I'm like, I'm just new in my role as a CEO. I have some issues with my team, so I know I need it. He's like, but I think my team probably does too, but they're not ready for a group coach. Theirs is not a group coaching situation. Theirs is they need one-on-one help in their specific roles and dealing with specific issues. So that's what I, propose to them. But there's also the side where he's like, yeah, but our managers need help too. And that was more like, well, let's do more of a group approach, if we're going to do something with them so that they're on the same page and they're learning together and having a community experience. And so, our Design Launch Grow program is a group model because we want people to hear each other as well, because as they're built, as somebody's building this component of their business, somebody else might hear an idea and go, you know what? And we've seen this many times, right, David, where somebody heard an idea and like, I should do that, or I can do that. And they started doing it and seeing success too, that wouldn't have been brought up just in a one-on-one call.
Yeah, I've had many times where I've actually gotten out of the way on a coaching call and just let two people coach each other.
Yeah.
And you're just like, making my job pretty easy over here because they're doing a great job. But it is exactly what you're saying. How many times have you heard those stories from you're listening to someone else ask questions because it's their turn to get their questions answered, and all of a sudden you go, I have that similar problem, and I need to figure that out. And I'm going to listen in close because I want to hear how this goes, because I'm going to apply what they're saying right now. And that happens all the time. And so there's a huge value for your client to go through and to be able to listen to each other, to grow to each other, and they're making connections with each other because they're like, hey, and they'll reach out to each other and start helping each other. And there's just a tremendous amount of value to doing these things as a group.
And the thing that it really hit me, a while back was if I didn't do this program, these people wouldn't have access to each other. They wouldn't have access to some of the training or the other expertise that they learn about.
Right.
So it's not just about us having to have all the answers as coaches,
Right.
but you are giving you're bringing people together. You are helping them achieve, specific goals to themselves, but you're also building community. And I think that that's such a
Right.
it's an unspoken many times, but such a high value and a high need in our culture today. Because especially when you talk about business coaching, entrepreneurship, it's a lonely game. We've talked about this many times where you need other people in your corner that get it. And sometimes just, and we've heard this before, like that, people say, well, this is just these are my people. Like I need to show up. I don't even have a question today, but I want to be here
Right.
just because of the community aspect of
Right.
it.
Agreed.
So anyway, folks, we don't want to, you know, uh, belabor this too much, but we want to just remind you to make sure you have a clear framework. What are the things that you're going to help people solve? How are you going to do that? What's the common process you lead them through? What are the common questions you ask people? How do you help them get clarity and move forward? If are there things you're teaching that you think, you know what, I say this thing over and over and over again. Okay, we'll record that. Whether it's a slide presentation and a voiceover, whether it's a just as you can record yourself on Zoom, just teaching through a slide deck, or just face like this, or whatever. But record the things that can be recorded. Document, whether it's creating PDFs, even or documents so that people can download, whatever it may be. Simplify things that you consistently find yourself teaching and helping people with, so that it helps everybody. And then finally, think about, how do I build groups, not just one-on-one clients? Because one-on-one is certainly valuable. There's certainly a lot of things that can happen well in those, but like we said, there's a limit to your time. There's a limit to your energy. There's a limit to time zones. There's all sorts of challenges with one-on-one. So bring together groups, and you can ultimately scale. You can keep things at a price point that many people can engage that maybe one-on-one they couldn't. There's all sorts of benefits to that. So think about it in different ways. But if you need help with any of this, check out designlaunchgrow.com. Like we said earlier, we have developed not just our design, launch, and grow phases of business building, but we've also developed clear roadmaps to help you as a coach, a course creator, and as a trainer, to help you walk through a systematized process that allows you to go from wherever you are today to ultimately having that thriving business you desire. So check that out at designlaunchgrow.com. If it's something that you need help with, we'd love to be in your corner, to be your partners for your success. So take care. Look forward to connecting with you guys next time.